Aloha mai kako. My name is Jace Kaholakula Saplan, and I'm the Director of Choral Activities at the University of Hawaii and the Hawaii ACDA President. I've had the honor and privilege of serving as the chair for our university subcommittee for the Western Region ACDA Task Force on Innovation. I wish I could be here with you all presenting live. Unfortunately, there is a hurricane/tropical storm headed to Hawaii and is set to arrive on Sunday and stay here in the islands until Monday. Because of this, I have taken the measure of pre-recording this talk, but that is okay because we will be safe. And I know that once I'm done unpacking this document, I'll leave you in the capable hands of my trusted colleague. So let's go ahead and take a look at the document or the folder together. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So here you have our university subcommittee folder, and you can access it from the from acdawestern.org and click on the task force tab and go to lucky number 7 college/university. In our drive, or on our drive, you will find a series of folders, and I'm going to go ahead and quickly talk about each of them. The first one is our advocacy folder. And in this folder, you have a series of different advocacy statements, one from Hawaii ACDA, one from ACDA National, the infamous Arts Education is Essential, one that was contributed or sent to us from Arian Keefe, which was a group letter from different arts organizations sent to the governor. As well as our Western ACDA advocacy statement that was written by our advocacy subcommittee. Each of these letters address advocacy in different ways. One was sent to support K-12 colleagues, especially in Hawaii, in May, where there was discussions of cutting all arts and physical education programs in preparation for the fall as a response to COVID-19. There was another letter that addresses the needs for choral music as a whole, one that's meant for organizations or specific arts organizations, and one that is a letter for K-12 educators that centers in on the need of choral music because of how choral music is innately tied to socio-emotional learning. The reason why we included an advocacy subcommittee or an advocacy folder within our subcommittee drive was noting the fact that as university DCAs or as college DCAs, we have an incredible responsibility to our K-12 educators and to our communities in being resources or safe people for advocacy. And I know that many people in the subcommittee, including myself, have been called upon to help our K-12 teachers, to help respective arts organizations, or to be in communication with our state governments to make sure that choral music programs have the ability to thrive during the pandemic, regardless of the type of instruction that we give, whether it be face-to-face, virtual, or a hybrid model, and that the positions that we occupy are kept safe and are given the resources that we need to thrive throughout the fall. So I'm hoping that these statements can help give us language and ideas should the need arise for us to craft our own advocacy statement or advocacy packet for ourselves, for our colleagues, and for our communities. Next, we have the fall plan examples. In this folder, you have different ideas of how a number of institutions will be navigating the fall. We have the University of Hawaii, University of Utah, Cal State University Fresno, Cal State University Fullerton, and an anonymous institution. These plans vary in scope depending on the size of our institution, the types of learners that we serve, and where we're situated. And these plans will change throughout the fall. We also will be including more institutions as they begin to finalize their respective fall plans. This is here to provide us a connected context for how we can serve or how we can articulate policies around ingress and egress, mitigation strategies that we may have, risk mitigation strategies that we may have, how we are crafting or reinterpreting the administrative oversight of our respective choral programs throughout this time. No institution is different, which is why we tried to include a variety of institutions here. More will come and more will be refined. And as things take shape, we hope that this part of the resources that we are providing will help kind of give you some context around the collective brain of how we are thinking and how we are moving forward, and what type of rhetoric we are using as we begin messaging out our risk mitigation strategies and our overall plans to our students, to our administration, and to everyone that's connected to what our respective programs reach and perspectives are. Framing instruction is next. Our resources that we have provided are different in relation to our other areas, simply because we believe at the college/university level, instruction is a very flexible and unique thing, considering that the institutions that we serve in the subcommittee span from the small liberal arts college, from faith-based institutions, from R2 institutions, R1 institutions, institutions that are tied to NASM accreditation, institutions that are not, institutions that serve predominantly non-music majors, those that probably just serve undergraduate, or institutions that include the MM and DMA program. Knowing the scope of what we do and knowing the types of courses that we offer, it's important that we respond to that in a context that is very meta. So to help frame instruction with this incredible reach that we have, we provided 2 documents for us to consider. The first is on the top left, delivering high quality instruction online in response to COVID-19, a faculty playbook that was sent to us from the University of California system. And in the top right, teaching effectively during times of disruption that was sent from us from Stanford University. Both resources provide really great insight and information on how we can frame our instruction through hybrid or online models in ways that still center in on quality of instruction, while also responding to needs of equity and of access. Those 2 documents were very important to framing our next steps in the subcommittee. And especially around the discussion of access, we provide that information through a recorded conversation. And you'll find different recorded conversations in the remaining subfolders of our subcommittee drive. This conversation that's within this subfolder of framing instruction is a discussion on access. Um, and we tackle the questions of how can we provide instruction to as many learners as we can if we find ourselves in a hybrid or entirely virtual/online model of instruction. How can we provide um, how can we provide instruction to students that may not have the resources to be online synchronously, or may not have the financial resources to afford these specific technological platforms that we may invest in, and how can we ensure and center in on emotional and mental well-being during this very trying time. Two documents came from this discussion. The first one being recommendations for synchronous learning here. And this was created in collaboration with myself and Emily Mercado at the University of Utah, in which we just suggest and help put out to the universe that we consider the ratio between synchronous and asynchronous instruction. What does it mean, or how can our asynchronous instruction speak more towards equity, and how can we really capitalize our synchronous instruction in ways that still speak to quality of instruction and emotional and mental health as well. Do we have, if we have a class that originally meets 3 times a week, do we have to have it synchronously every single meeting period? Or is there a way that we can capitalize on asynchronous instruction, noting that time and that being in front of a screen can be really, really taxing for not only ourselves, but for our learners. Scott Hanawire at Santa Clara University put out a resource needs sheet for his students. And I thought that this document was very succinct and very clear in terms of articulating what students will be, which technological platforms students will be interacting with, the purpose of each platform, the cost of each platform, as well as responding to needs of equity. And I thought he addressed it in such a empathetic, beautiful, and efficient way. So that is our framing instruction folder. We have a graduate choral conducting folder, which is meant for colleagues with graduate programs in choral conducting at the MM and DMA, or music education, graduate music education programs. We have a recorded conversation on framing graduate instruction and what our work with our graduate conducting studios could look like. I thought this discussion was very important because a lot of important resources are discussed specifically around providing feedback for virtual choral conducting lessons, as well as considerations for those of us teaching choral literature at the graduate level in the fall. Arian Kafey also provided a mapping document for what classes or curricula for the fall would look like or could look like for his graduate studio at San Diego State University, that I found to be very helpful as I begin to think about what it would look like for our graduate students at the University of Hawaii. Finally, we have our undergraduate folder. And this folder, I think, has provided the basis for our in-depth work and our next steps as a subcommittee. We have a recorded conversation around undergraduate instruction, in which we tackle the questions of how do we support our choral music education majors or our future choral music educators? What do we need to do, or what can we do if student teaching is entirely online? How can we frame our choral music education, our choral methods classes, and what does mentorship look like when we are not able to provide face-to-face office hours for our undergraduate students. And so noting that one of the primary sources of connection or overlap within all institutions that we have in the Western region or California is our service to the undergraduate student. So we really think that this is an important avenue to continue on, and I'll say more about that soon. As an additional document that we have on here is we frame cumulative projects, assessments. I have, when the University of Hawaii switched to online instruction last spring, we originally were supposed to be visiting all of these high schools and middle schools and elementary schools. Once that was no longer an option, we pivoted to hosting, I found the word, an undergraduate research symposia. And so I've included that for you folks to hopefully help inspire or spark some ideas around what could be included in your syllabi to maximize student learning and engagement. With that said, I would like to extend a mahalo, a profound thank you to our subcommittee members, Nicole Andrews, Jeffrey Benson, Andy Crane, Carrie Earnhardt, Scott Glisson, Scott Hanawire, Ryan Holder, Emily Mercado, Christopher Peterson, and Joe Svensson for their work on curating these resources for you all. Thank you to those that served. As we think about next steps and enter into more organic conversation, I want to introduce to you our newest member of our subcommittee and your university R&R chair, Dr. Corey Brown, because I think it's important for us to consider the next steps for our subcommittee and how we will navigate the instruction or support for our undergraduate students, specifically in regards to choral music education. So what resources do we need, or what questions should we encounter and tackle in a community format around choral methods, student teaching practica? How can we be of service for all of this? What are some resources that are needed? What are questions that you have? And how can we help? So without further ado, I'd like to thank you all and to introduce Dr. Corey Brown to help facilitate the next part of our roundtable. Aloha.